All right, let's get it started. All right, hello and welcome to Spitfire episode 5, and of course, Black Ops 4 has launched. My name is Brice. Joining me this one in the background and doing a bit of producing as well is, of course, Tunn, but more importantly, our guest for this week, MarkyB. He's a coach in Splice and coach of Reciprocities. It's Shane.
Still can't say it.
Reciprocity, but yeah, that's fine.
Reciprocities.
Rec.
For asking why I look different, I have moved my camera angle because this is the camera angle I use when I'm streaming, and I was streaming earlier. All right, obviously, first of all, guys, Black Ops 4 has launched, and this means that we're basically going to be talking everything Black Ops 4 for the next hour. Marky, let's start with you. Getting your hands on the game, how do you feel about it?
I think it's really fun. Like, I've been playing the most amount of pubs I've ever played in my life. I've just been grinding pubs. I'm already 4th prestige level, like 40 or something like that. Going hard, trying to get dark matter at the same time.
Oh,
just,
I'm not about that life.
Just having a lot of fun, man. That's the main thing. Like, obviously I'm not competing anymore, but it's actually a really just enjoyable game to play. So just been grinding that, really, trying to figure stuff out.
Fair enough. How about you, Shane? Same thing?
It's like Mark said, man. It's literally been since CoD 4 was the last time I enjoyed playing publics and could happily do it. So for it to get me back into that, which is it must be doing well. But so far, it looks really good and it has an insane amount of potential.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I think it's possibly the most fun I've had on a CoD at launch for a while. I actually enjoy playing pubs, and usually I don't like playing pubs. So, and that's like a big thing. Usually I'm just straight on the GBs, like just straight on the GBs. But I've also been playing a lot of Blackout. So yeah, I'm really kind of just enjoying the hell out of this game. Ton, you've been playing a little bit, right? I mean, not very well.
I've been playing a lot. Hey. Right, let's.
He ain't that bad. He ain't that bad.
Let's get it
Best
straight.
He ain't that bad. He ain't that bad.
He's just gone with
his wages.
the best. Yeah, of course I do, mate. My record's going all right. I've got people like JT slowing me down in the first one, and then the one today, you know, it was a slow start.
Yeah.
But we picking up a 3-piece around 7 or something like that.
You were caking it. I could hear it in your voice when you were
shaking.
Sounded nervous as fuck.
No, but obviously I'm really enjoying it. Same with everybody else. It's I think easily the best game that's actually been released in probably about 4 years, I would say.
And obviously, you know, you two have got the ear of the pros, I should say. You represent 2 pro teams. How have your players kind of been adapting to the game and kind of getting into it? Has it been heavy grind on the scrims, or have they diversified a bit pubs, bit of GBs? Marky?
I mean, pretty much just playing likes of tournaments, pubs and stuff. No real pro teams have scrimmed at all because they're sort of like waiting for the announcement of, first of all, the game modes and maps that we're going to be playing. Obviously, there's quite a big map pool here, so we really don't know like what maps to practice. I mean, there's rumours that what specific maps and game modes we're going to be playing, but no one's really wanting to sit there and grind something that they're going to end up wasting time on. And also there's rumours that the spawns might be changing on hardpoint as well. So it's just one of those things that like everyone's just sort of taking their time, just enjoying the game, like first and foremost before getting deep into the CoD grind. I mean, everyone is grinding CoD, but just not that sort of scrim practice.
I think it's the most time of every player stream stuff. Do you think the hardpoints need to change? Do the hardpoint spawns need to change?
Yes, 100%.
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
100%.
I've not played any personally, but
just
what I've heard.
Even just from pubs, and I know it's hard to distinguish what's going on just in pubs, but I would say that there's just been times where they're super sensitive. Like you literally need to be making sure you are fully blocking spawns, like not just near it to potentially block it. Like the people spawning behind you when you're in and around the area and things like that. When typically in previous CoDs they would be actually getting blocked, things like that. So I don't know. They just seem a little bit sensitive right now. And
I was going to put a clip on Twitter earlier, Ton, about that actually.
Yeah.
A guy spawned on me. Like I don't mean like he spawned like looking at me or something. I mean I was sprinting through a room and I hit the guy like in running before I had a chance to react. He just appeared.
Yeah.
I was like, what on earth?
Yeah,
So I don't know whether the other issue being is the that spawn beacon. I think pubs that may mess up a few things here and there. So
that's true.
But I have noticed. So, and this is already I'm diversing here. So for people watching and thing, there is like the way spawns work, and I've always taken this from Halo because I imagine a lot of games still work the same. But back in Halo, especially Halo 3, the devs of Halo 3 did a video, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, where they explained how they worked out spawns. Now, obviously, it's not the same for every game, but I imagine it's pretty close. And they talked about here are your default spawns, here are the spawns you're likely to spawn in. Here's how it works with terms of like influences, like if a nade's in the area, or if someone's just died, or if a player from the other team can see that area. It worked out on a point system to where to spawn you. Right. And it also had things called emergency spawns. So like if you were all sat over these spawns and their influences were so low, there were hard-coded points in the map, but while they wouldn't show up on things like the level editors that you could play with, they would still emergency spawn somebody there. I can't remember what map I played earlier, but the emergency spawns are either not working or there's something slightly wrong there because we were able to completely spawn trap them for the entire game. But that's maybe not one of the maps we're going to see in competitive and stuff. So I'm very curious to see how it goes on as they adapt and kind of now see, millions of people playing. But that was just kind of me ranting about it. Shane, let's talk about your team, Reciprocities. How have they been adapting? New team?
Right, let's first and foremost, can we get this locked down?
I don't even know who that team is.
Can we get this locked down? Reciprocity.
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 Essex boys can't speak from
Rec.
Well, I've got it.
We'll call it Rec. We'll just say Rec.
Yeah, Rec Pack.
That'll do. That's fine. But yeah, I guess the same as Mark's team. Really, they've just been grinding S&D tournaments simply because they haven't released a rule set yet, which isn't the best on Treyarch's part. But I think they're enjoying it. I think they're enjoying it. Say that again?
They've been getting feedback and stuff, right?
Well, I think they've flown pros out already, right? To decide the rule set. So I don't think it's going to come out for a little bit yet anyways, which is unfortunate. But I know they're enjoying S&D to some extent. There is a lot of nonsense in the game, a lot of maps that just simply aren't playable for 5v5 and stuff like that. So they're getting happy sometimes and a lot of the times getting stressed. But apart from that, they sound like they're really enjoying it too, which is a good sign.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, let's talk about what we do like and what we don't like then, because obviously not only do we have our personal experiences, but you guys have another 10 players you've probably heard things from and the wider kind of community at large. Tunn, you haven't spoken an awful lot. What do you kind of like?
Been on the stream,
or what do you don't like?
I absolutely love the game in terms of just the general core game. I really enjoyed actually the throwback maps. Publics are fun, which isn't necessarily something like Shane said that you usually come across in Call of Duty games, especially for players who have obviously played previously competitive and stuff like that. And it is difficult sometimes when you go into pubs and people do ridiculous things. But I think for me, one of the main things is, well, it's nice to have a bloody colourful game and like nice colourful colours. And it's just like, it's great. Like I'm actually having fun playing pubs. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I love the majority of the guns, but God damn, that ICR needs nerfed. It needs nerfed so bad.
Oh, yes.
It is ridiculous.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, so
Grip
good.
2 is ridiculous.
But like, it's at the point where we need to see. I mean, I'm sure we'll divulge more into weapons and stuff like that. But I need to see a sub buff, and I need to see the ICR nerfed. The other ones are all right, but realistically, a lot of the ARs are being used as subs right now, specifically the Maddox. And I want to see the ICR nerfed so it can actually bring these ARs back in line of where they should be. So things like the Maddox and the Vapor and everything can be used actually as ARs and are as good as the ICR. And then the SMGs need a buff so that we can use them as well.
So I'm just going to bring this in here because Swizz was brought up a good point. ICR is an OP. He thinks Grip 2 is the problem.
No, I think the ICR is still OP. Grip 2 is ridiculous, don't get me wrong, but I think it's still probably the best AR.
Shane, you're a famous sub player.
Yeah, I'm used to getting battered by all these sorts of ARs, but yeah, the ICR is simply too good. Even without Grip 2, it's definitely still too good. Like part of that is because of how much aim assist is in the game. I'm sure if there was a way to see it, there's by far the most aim assist in any COD ever. We pretty much
that explains why I hit people.
Exactly. As soon as you get near him, the gun starts shooting for you, and he just follows him around. The SMGs aren't good enough. Like the best SMG is the Sorg, which, if you look at it, it looks like a piece of shit. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be the only usable one. In dedicated servers, there's a lot more usable subs, but when you get into the private games, when you're not playing on these great dedicated servers, things like the GKS, which everyone loves in pubs, you'll get absolutely slapped across the map with most guns as soon as you go into a private game.
Okay, MarkyB, you're a famous AR player. Weigh in.
On the ICR.
Well, hold on 1 second, Marky. Tunn, what was that laugh for?
Nothing.
I think MarkyB has established himself as an AR player. Are you saying he hasn't?
Mark's livid.
I'm just saying. I'm saying nothing. Mark's going to carry me in wages later, and then everything will be forgiven.
Yeah. We ain't playing with you.
Yes, you are. I'm going to keep forcing you to play
We're
with
getting
me.
Brice in now.
Yeah, mate, have you seen my blackout? It's got to be the same thing in pubs. I'll be great.
I don't want to see
Yeah.
your blackout, pal.
Well, anyway, moving on. ICR is obviously pretty OP in general. I think that obviously with Grip 2, it just makes it even more OP. I think just the ARs across the board are way better than the subs. Something needs to change there. I don't want to see like at the same time. I don't want to see the ARs like nerfed into oblivion and the subs mega buff because I don't want it to be like crazy chaotic, where everyone just sliding about with subs all the time. But there's definitely like got to be some tuning there to bring the subs up a little bit of like, because it's just completely a joke at the minute. Like we were saying before, Maddox is pretty much being used as a sub. Like the people are instead of running a like it's like an ICR combination with a Maddox instead of like an ICR and sub. You maybe see a SOG here and there depending on the map, depending on the rush or whatever, but it's pretty much all Maddox and ICR is what you're seeing. Maybe if you're Shane, you'll see an Augur DMR flying out there. But apart from that, yeah, just hopefully it gets changed.
I'm guessing many players aren't using like the operator mods for weapons. Or are they?
No, at the moment, probably because everyone's assuming they won't be allowed or.
Well, it
Yada,
takes a lot
yada,
for the
yada.
gamer as well, doesn't it? From what I understand, like it's not a. It's not a
You
cheap
take
thing
up
to
a
put on.
lot of slots. I think it takes up by the time
3.
you get there, it's 3 slots.
Oh,
to have
really?
that on,
Oh,
and
okay.
then that's with nothing else. So if you had that on and a gun, that's 4 slots already gone. So,
I don't know which. I don't know which are some of the best ones. I know that I think
Spitfire's
it's the
one's
swordfish.
alright.
The swordfish has
yeah.
like an extra bullet in which makes you one bomb a lot more. But which
Is it the
people
ABR
won't be
that
happy with
speeds up into like an automatic fire?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can hold the trigger down and it turns like
it's
it's
worse.
almost an automatic burst gun.
It's worse on the ARs, but I think
The Augur has a 2-shot. The Augur 2 shots.
yeah, it's really powerful. But I think most of the tournaments that everyone's been running have actually banned them. Have CMG banned them?
I have no idea. To be honest with you.
CMG banned everything.
I
by
can't
the looks of
say.
it.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever run into anything on GB or wages or anything.
Yeah.
Not that I play the load, but at the same time, I would expect it to probably see some by now if they were allowed. But I think most people
Yeah.
don't bother because of how much it takes away, especially considering in private matches, everyone's tending to run a grenade instead of the equipment because a lot of the equipment's being banned. And then that's just it takes too much. I think it takes too much for how effective it is to let you get a couple of kills, especially in S&D. I think in Hardpoint you might see it more often, but for the sake of like maybe one gunfight around, I don't think it's people aren't thinking it's worth it. I don't think.
I don't know. I like the fact that the VKM has an attachment called Fat Barrel or Fat Bullet. It's one of the two. It's ridiculous. But I think balance is something hard to get right. Like, and it's been the case in every COD. You've also got to accept, and I hate when people say, "Oh, we want every gun to be used." It's never going to happen.
Yeah,
It's never ever going to happen.
It's not possible.
Yeah, of course.
There's always
not.
going to be a gun that's going to be better situationally than other guns. Like no matter how you get to it.
As soon as a pro player realises what gives the tiniest bit of advantage, they'll be using that every single time.
Well, we
Yeah.
talk about also like publics and comp doesn't always match up. Like the M1 Garand was unbelievable in like comp, but public players they weren't really experiencing a lot like higher KDs or anything, and that's the way the devs spoke about it. They said, "Look, our public thing, with 20 million players, says it's not that bad." But the problem is on the skill curve. Once you hit skill curve of a pro player, like they're not missing. That's the issue. Is that it becomes a very, very efficient and difficult to deal with gun at that level. It's also kind of like Ghosts, because they talked about the Remington in Ghosts, if you remember, and they said they were surprised that was pro players' chosen AR for a lot of it, simply because it was pros found it so efficient. It only had 20 bullets in it in the clip, but because pros were so efficient with it, it was basically the go-to weapon, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to happen with whatever you do to them. Every gun is going to have its own characteristics.
Yeah.
And that means that something is going to be more efficient than something else.
Yeah, I think in this game though, because obviously as you said, they based it off publics, their statistics, that sort of thing. But I think the ICR, even when you're in a public, it doesn't matter if you're in a public, you're in a wager, you're
The whole
GB.
lobby's running it.
Yeah, exactly. And you notice it more when you're trying to run today I've been trying to get headshots with a Rampart. And everybody and their grannies run around with a fully stacked ICR, and I'm trying to win gunfights at range, and with my shot, it's already difficult enough. So then you've got people running ICRs, and it's just it makes me realize how good it is compared to the other ARs, especially at some sort of range, even up close because it drops so quick. If you can snap onto somebody, yet they're dead. It's so fast. Like I think it's probably the best all round gun. I mean, I know the SOG at dead close range obliterates people, but if you're any further than a foot away from somebody, it shits the bed. So I think realistically, like the ICR at this moment in time is the best all round gun, full stop, and that it 100% needs nerfed.
I think that.
Go on, Mark. No, go on, Marky. One last thing.
Yeah, it's one last thing. I was just going to say, like, obviously with the guns like the ICR, even like the GKS, which Shane mentioned, the pubs, I think public players are just dragged to the guns that are easier to use, like low recoil weapons, and these are like I think obviously with the data that the publics are going to provide, that the ICR is definitely going to get nerfed. Like, there's no way it's not. Like, I can't see anything bar that happening, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. That's what we were talking about, right? It's going to be balanced. Like, I fully believe it's going to be balanced. So interesting to see what comes out next. It wouldn't surprise me to see like the Vapor Automatic's going to take maybe precedent because they seem more versatile with a high rate of fire. But let's move on, because we can kind of bang on about this for hours, and it's basically the same point. We're expecting a change in that area. I want to talk about some of the other gun sets. Now, I know that they may not have been used that much. The pros may not have kind of played with them that much. LMGs. What do we think about the LMGs right now? Because the Titan was great in the Veda.
Yeah,
they are OP.
They're very, very strong. They drop really quickly, but I mean, I said not many people use them because of the mobility and stuff like that, and I don't expect to see them. I mean, the majority of them are actually banned on all the websites as well. But as far as public goes, yeah, they're difficult to deal with. I think it's one of the default setting classes for the Titan has the bloody the thermal scope on it, doesn't it? And I've actually picked it up a couple of times, especially when if somebody's calling a streak or something like that, it has the rockets, the Helion Salvo, what it's called, on the side. And I've used it a couple of times, and it's an absolute maniac. It's so good. It literally like hardly even kicks. And yeah, they're super strong, but I can't say I've seen them loads. Odd occasion, but obviously everyone's tending to run the ICR anyway, so it's not too much of a difficult problem right now. But I think if ARs did get a nerf, we'll probably see it more in publics, but not so much in like pro playoffs.
Marky?
I think that LMGs are like, they're unreal. I think that obviously this is also something to mention, that what we've been playing, like some me, Shane and Tunn, we've been playing a lot of like CMG tournaments and stuff like that, and a lot of the stuff is restricted on that right now because of like the rule sets not being announced, etc. So we've played a more bare bones side of the game, I guess. So like the likes of LMGs have been banned, so that's really, you've not really been able to see the impact of them in competitive gameplay, and I'm not sure if they're actually going to be allowed in competitive gameplay in general. So from me using them to get headshots in publics, they have huge clip sizes, don't move whatsoever, and they melt. So they're very OP. I'd say the only negative to them is their the mobility, like Tunny said.
So the thing is, like, maybe with 5 players now, the problem with LMGs is the fact that you used to have the trade-off of mobility, and mobility was a big thing in CoD, right? You had to get into the right positions. Yeah. With more players on the map now, there is a more kind of possibility of a player playing very, very slowly and holding a cup with one. So that could be interesting to see whether or not that's a dynamic they engage with or they think about, or anything like that. But let's move on from the LMGs, because there's 3. There's the Hades, the VKM, and the Titan, and it's basically pick your flavor. The Titan's the all-rounder. The VKM's basically the Gorgon. It's a heavy hit and 50 cal, and the Hades is basically like an M249. It fires fast. It feels a little bit more like an assault rifle. But I'm interested to see how they kind of move on with the LMGs, and whether or not they'll be in comp is something that we can only wait to see the rule set. Snipers wise, has there been a lot of I mean, you've been playing S&Ds, right? So there's got to be some sniping.
I just want to jump in on the LMG conversation. You know for a fact what's going to happen if they get allowed.
Yeah.
You know
great
exactly
year. Let's move on. Snipers. Snipers. What do we think? They've been good, bad, medium?
The one that looks like the 50 cal, I mean, on paper, it should be really good, but the amount of people I see getting hit markers, like chest and above getting hit markers, that needs to be corrected, and it needs to be more consistent, where if you hit him, well, it needs to do what the gun does on the description. Like, I think it says anywhere from the waist above, it's a kill. Obviously, that's the coding issue, I guess, or something like that, but that needs to be more consistent, I think. But again, I haven't really sniped, to be honest. I've never really been a sniper, but assuming the aim assist is like it is on other guns, then they're gonna be very like prolific in competitive, especially because it will be pretty easy to snipe. Yeah, especially with the thermal as well, even easier.
Yeah.
How good are the sidearms? Because that's always a contributing factor.
They're
in
all
sniping,
good,
right?
They're all pretty
They're all
decent. Yeah.
The sidearms are good. The sidearms are good. It's just it takes one of your pick 10, and I don't think they're going to be that needed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like for me, sniping also has like a caveat of what are you running against?
Oh yeah, of course.
So like, is it good enough to be at least semi-viable with what you're taking as a secondary?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're not
That's
that bad.
interesting.
They're really not that bad. Every single one of them is pretty
They're
decent.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Well, I've used the RK7 in Blackout, and that's pretty good. Not gonna lie, a lot of my games have been Blackout games.
the Mozu is good.
Ah,
The what's the standard one called?
that's interesting that most of your games have been Blackout because some of the guns actually behave a lot differently in Blackout compared to like actual like LMGs, for example, have like way more kick in Blackout than they do in like actual pub games. Like, so like when I played Blackout, it's like I pick up an LMG, I'm like, yo, this is gonna be like what it's like in a pub, and I'm just windmilling everywhere. But then in a pub, it's just like doesn't move at all.
I feel like when I picked up a Titan in Blackout yesterday, it was a lot harder to use it than it was in the beta.
Yeah.
In the beta, it was like a laser.
Oh, it's my go-to gun.
Yeah, but now they've definitely nerfed it, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, Blackout.
Yeah. But I just want to touch on the snipers. So, like, there's a lot of argument around it. Is like, should it kill in one shot? I know it's COD and it always typically has done, but with the extra health, does that not make snipers a lot more viable if they are one-shotting?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's
really
extra
good
health. I feel like the extra health is still relative to the gun's damage and stuff like that. Whatever reason it is for 150 health, like CODs before, they weren't necessarily 100 health. They were just
100 of that amount of health, right?
Yeah. I feel like in COD, it's especially in a competitive game. Once you snipe someone, you're not going to get that chance to snipe him again or aim for the head and stuff like that. So 100%, it should be a one-hit kill, especially if it's Jester above.
Yeah.
How are you finding the TTK at high levels then? How is the TTK?
It seems quick still. I don't feel like I feel like they've put it down a little bit from the beta, I want to say. I don't know if they actually have, but it definitely, I don't know if the servers are just better or the guns are stronger, but I don't feel like it's as high as it was in the beta.
I think the time to kill is fine. It's just there are less viable guns in a competitive game than there is in public.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed a lot of chest high cover as well in a lot of the maps I've been seeing. There's like a lot of chest high cover, which is never fun when you're running into a good AR. It's just never fun.
If they got grip 2 on it, it's like a laser as said. Like it can literally be as accurate as aiming for the head with grip 2. It's stupid. It's direct on it.
Let's move on then, because we're not even talking about shotguns. Because I don't feel the need to touch on those. So there is a few more points of contention. Let's start with the bigger one first of all. Stim, armor, that sort of stuff. What way is the wind blowing? How have players been finding it? What have they been doing about it? Marky?
I think that, I would say the sort of general consensus is it's not the best. Like, there's a lot of different engagements that you wouldn't really particularly have an old COD in like classic COD as such. Like the amount of times you can make someone one shot in like an old COD and you're like, okay, I'm gonna chase that kill. That's a guaranteed kill. Do you know what I mean? So you need to sort of like, currently the way it is, you need to sort of get out of that habit of doing that, because the amount of times you make someone weak and you're like, okay, I've got this kill, slide in the corner, then he's full health, and you get cameraed as well because they know you're sliding at them and they sort of camera you back. So it's like it sort of changes the complete way Call of Duty is played as a whole, to be honest with you. Which I'm not quite sure if I'm a fan of just yet, but I think it's one of those things that if that is the case, players are just going to need to get used to the change of pace and the change of gameplay.
I might be wrong here, but I'm thinking there's a perk that puts regenerative health back on.
Medic, but it's not worth running because is it not in slot 2? And that's where Dexter is it? Mark, Shane, I can't remember.
I haven't got a clue. I haven't checked it. I don't really check
Who knows?
But like I've tried it. When I prestige, I had to use one of the default classes that didn't have stim or armor, and the regeneration isn't bad. It's still quicker than every other COD. Me personally, I don't think stim's a good thing for competitive whatsoever. I feel like you get punished way less for mistakes. You can get away with a lot more bad decisions and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Also, it's going to make the game a hell of a lot faster paced, and since Activision, they always want to make this better from a viewer's perspective. 5v5 of hardpoint on these small maps is not going to look good faster paced than it has been over the years already.
Yeah, I can see that. I was tempted to upload it to Twitter, but I had a clip the other day of I was basically slid across a gap. Someone hit me, and they were fairly close. They probably down to like 80 health, and I'd already pushed the stim as I slid, and I literally, without even pausing, jumped straight back out tangent and won the gunfight. In most cases, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have had to either try play my life or figure out the correct angle. With that, it did. The mistake didn't matter. The mistake, I literally, because I was hitting stim at the same time, and how quick it is, I banged back out, snapped them, and they were done.
Yeah.
And you're right. That's the kind of thing that could prove a problem with positioning and stuff.
Yeah. One of the things, like, I'm quite happy to have the healer mechanic in, but I think that they need to maybe remove.
Oh, it's not happening. That old mechanic's not coming in. I'm sorry, but it's not.
No, using stim isn't going to stay. But obviously, when you use stim, it's just a faster heal. You get a heal no matter what.
But I think that's the middle ground, right? If you had no stim, like the manual healing itself, I don't have a problem with that mechanic. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
It's
but Stim's too
fine.
fast. Stim's too fast.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're sitting there, and it's every 2 seconds. People are like shoulder peeking, getting made weak, stemming up. Shoulder peeking 2 seconds later, stemming up. It's just like there's no like
There's no punishment.
There's no punishment for shoulder peeking. Make you get like when you're getting made weak, you should be able to get like advantage taken off you in that point. Like a push can be made in that moment, but it's just not the case.
Yeah, I think they should remove stim. I'm quite happy to have obviously the normal healing. Isn't that? I mean, it's not that bad. I think there's times where obviously, as said, Marky was saying, like you can jump out of cover, go back in, stim up, but you can then do it like literally 2 seconds later. I don't know the exact amount of time that it takes for the heal to come back up without stim, but it's significant.
It's still quick.
It's still quick. I know you don't heal as quick though, obviously without it and stuff like that as well. But obviously, I think that they need to either tone stim completely down and to just in general move the healer mechanic maybe just down a bit, and that maybe allow it to be longer time before you can actually keep doing it. Because as I said, you're not getting punished for mistakes and stuff like that, and I think everybody's used to it now. And like I said, you two have to adapt. We have to adapt every single year to a different game anyway. But this is a big adaptation for people that you like. There's been so many times like you'll call out saying he's weak, and you're like, why am I calling out saying he's weak? Because he's inevitably not weak anymore.
Then your teammate's going to challenge him, and then he's going to get absolutely rinsed because he's got full health.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a different way of playing the game now, isn't it?
Totally.
I'm guessing armor is not something that's been about at the kind of the higher pro level then, right? Like I'm guessing it's either not been in the game or people just aren't using it.
It's been banned in like every tournament essentially.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see it. I'd be very surprised if it came through, to be honest with you. And if it does, we know what happens. So.
Right, well, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's talk about the other thing here, specialist equipment, because you can switch that out for grenades and all kinds of stuff. Is that being used? People switching it out? Is it by specialist basis? What's been going on, Shane?
I mean, it was used in a few. Obviously, as everyone's only playing tournaments, we just have to play what rules the tournament provides. But I don't think it's. I think it can be good in respawn, but in S&D, like there's a perk which you can start. You can start like with a stun almost every other round, and since TACMAS doesn't count as stuns, that's pretty overpowered. But like the thing with the specialist where you get the grenade, the trophy systems in S&D, what I don't like it is you can wait all that time for your trophy system, blah blah blah. You throw your trophy system down. The other team might not have any stuns. Then they'll get them the next round. You don't have your trophy system. I think it should be consistent every round, or at least at some point in the round, you should 100% get it rather than every other round or whatever it is at the moment.
Yeah, we were having this conversation the other day with all that. It needs to be enabled after every life, especially in S&D. Bevel's made a good post about it actually on Twitter, saying that it should be enabled because then there's going to be times where, because it's time dependent, isn't it? Of your stun or grenade or whatever coming up. Yeah. So like, there's going to be rounds where teams are absolutely taking their time so that they have their equipment available, and then the equipment's going to be available at random times. You're not going to be able to track it. You can have a decent idea. Tracking's going to be very hard. It's going to be so difficult to track. So I think he was right that they absolutely need to enable it at the beginning of every round in S&D at least. I understand for hardpoint maybe slowing it down a little bit, but then again, there's other issues with that. But it's absolutely needs to be at the beginning of every round of S&D. But first and foremost, they need to fix TACMAS because stuns are just at 9 bangs. I mean, Christ alive. I've spent half the time in Publix just completely blinded, and there's nothing you can actually do about it. So I think they actually need to make TACMAS viable before they start to implement these changes. But yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I know this sounds like totally negative. As a core, the game's good, but there's still things that I think everyone's really positive about the game because they can see how good it can be.
Which is a first.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the game's amazing. Like,
very
don't get me wrong. This is. We're always going to talk about the negatives of the game because how many times can you say, "Oh, I love this," but this is what it sounds like. You can play. We're just nitpicking. Like I think everybody I've spoken to loves this game. Even people I know who aren't into the Call of Duty esports or haven't been a fan of CoD the last few years have basically said, "Yeah, I'm actually really enjoying this game. This is a lot of fun to play." And that's so important for esports as well, just to be fun to play. Because if you're playing the game and you're good, you want to see the best people in the world play the game, and that's what the CWL is for.
I'm super looking forward to see what the numbers are like for Vegas. I'm really actually intrigued to see how big they're going to be because I think
it's going to be huge.
I think it's going to be insane. I genuinely I don't want to say numbers because I don't know the exact what they were like for last year, but
2 million watching the final, 100 Thieves versus Optic. I mean Reciprocity versus Splice.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I think hundreds of thousands of viewers for big finals and stuff like that. I would expect potentially.
It's like Brice said, like what they've got right is the game is extremely fun. We are just nitpicking, but the things that we're nitpicking about are minor, but they do create major issues on a competitive standpoint.
But they can be fixed. Like the majority of them seem like easy fixes, don't they?
Completely.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
go on, Marky. Go on, Marky.
Sorry, my bad. But yeah, like you were saying, really, I think that if these things are fixed, like my best mates are all playing COD for the first time in years. Yeah. They're loving it. It's just the best. If the general consensus is that if, like you said, the public are having fun playing it, everyone else is going to have fun. But like, I think that these can be major issues that are going to cause frustration with pro players and can cause inconsistencies in the game. I don't think that's great for competitive, and I think that, like you said, it's need to fix these things.
Let's move on then. Let's talk about specialists. What specialists have been coming to the fore? Who are the guaranteed picks? As always, I remember Black Ops 3, there was always like 4 you just picked every single S&D. Is there anyone like who's just been an instant lock-in?
It's hard to say because they've been banned in tournaments and stuff, but the only one the guaranteed, that'd be the heat. I think it's Crash, the healing one.
Yeah.
The one that gives everyone 50 extra health. I think that's like the only one that's 100% has to be in.
Yeah.
Maybe the Vision Pulse, I assume that will be allowed. That all the ones that little things rather than the big guns that you get with the specialist, the little things like getting health, getting information, they'll be the most used ones for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that also the 9-bang with the shield will probably be used as well. Like that is OP, that shield, like running around bottle pistol.
Someone said to me in the beta that it wasn't. I was like, bollocks. I was like, how do you deal with that one-on-one? Like, how do you deal with it?
If you give a pro player a shield, you won't kill him.
100%. That's the thing. There's not a counter to it. It's the same with the radiation thing on Firebreak. There's not a counter to it. Like, how can you counter somebody who stands on the other side of standing on the other side of a hard point? Imagine pros like I'll find out spots where to sit with it.
And he gets extra health too. He gets
extra health when he's popping it, and then on top of that, when you've burned, you can't heal. It's like
that's annoying. That's
so powerful.
I don't mind it. I don't mind that.
No.
I think that is like it's a bit like Heatwave, right? It's basically looking at it in the same way
through walls.
But I'm saying
Heatwave was ruining Black Ops 3 though. Heatwave was an incredibly overpowered specialist.
But I think it might be a tactical thing they want in. That's what I think.
Vonderhaar's always wanted nonsense in the game. It's never made it right.
I just think that's one of the one that's the worst. Like I said, like you could literally stand on the other side of a hardpoint in a wall where there's no entrance to that hardpoint and fry people alive. Yes, okay, people become aware of it, but all it takes is 20 or 30 damage and then you can't heal. That's the main thing. If you could heal, I wouldn't be so opposed to it. But if you're burnt, you can't heal. He maybe needs to take 30 damage off a few players in that hill, and it's an easy break every single time, and there is literally nothing you can do about it. Not a thing. Because he could do it on any wall, anywhere, you don't know. I mean, I've been using it all the time in pubs because...
He's still got to get close, though. He still has to get close.
Yeah, but if you've got a solid surface and you can't see him on the other side of it,
Yeah,
then... Like, I've been doing it in pubs.
true.
It's insane. Like, the amount of times I mean, don't get me wrong, I find it absolutely hilarious. Especially when, like, you're playing against some sweaters and you just sit on the other side of the wall and you pop it and you get 3 kills.
I think it's pretty powerful.
strong.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I'll probably use an example where I got 3 kills with it as well. So I don't know how much damage it does to people specifically, but it seems pretty powerful.
Yeah, I had a video the other day. I literally sat behind a car at A control on firing range. The car just where the tunnel is. I sat there and they all ran up and I just sat there and they were shooting me. And because I get extra health as well, they're shooting me, but I'm also cooking them alive. And it's like, well, you can't really do anything about it.
You're what?
Cooking.
Cooking
Sorry, it's my
them
accent.
alive.
Leave it out.
Cooking?
Leave it out.
Cooking. Talk is another one, I think, is probably the barrier. Is that the Guardian barrier?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ! Played that in pubs. You play against a sweaty guy with that in pubs, he'll have a fucking barbed wire at every entrance possible.
That's me.
All right.
You do that.
I've been using that on control.
I've
You've
got,
got to
scumbag.
taking that off of me
Like,
ever.
I've got so many issues with barbed wire.
You go on control. You can spawn trap the other team. There's slums, for example, when they spawn behind the second hill. They have three exits. 2 of those exits are small enough. You can put barbed wire down on one and a fucking shield down on the other. And I've given up halfway through it, but a lot of the time they seem to take a hell of a lot of fucking bullets to break as well.
Yeah, that's one of my main complaints about like barbed wire. Like, why does it take me 2 clips to get rid of a barbed
You also
wire?
get it pretty quickly too.
Yeah, like you should be able
You
to
also
walk
can't
to
shoot
a
through it
mellow.
properly, can you?
No.
It's a little bit like chest high cover. People, I don't think a lot of people realize that.
And if you try
It's
and
not
like,
good to shoot through.
I'm okay with it slowing
yeah,
you down,
true.
but like it takes you for like 10 every second when you're walking through it. And I'm walking out of barbed wire with 30 health. What sort of barbed wire are they using here? Like to kill people? Like
And the shield's got a guardian attached to
Yeah.
it as well, which is another
Like-
fine one.
I'm alright with it slowing people down, but like, could you imagine, like, barbed wire doesn't kill people, especially fucking soldiers from the future. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be doing this to people. It's ridiculous. That's my laying the law down on barbed wire.
Here's what I think will happen. Moving on to kind of the positive aspects of it. Here's what I think will happen this year. We'll probably end up going towards the thing like the Annihilator and the Tempest will be preferred with the way that the rules work out, and we'll have those great games where you see someone light people up with a Tempest. It's a big break and everyone cheers and all that sort of stuff. I'm hoping it goes that way, and I think it probably will. We probably see the Purifier and that sort of stuff come in. But obviously, it's not as much of a choice this year because you get the equipment and the specialist thing, and you basically get the choice whether or not you want to take different equipment as well. So you have a lot of versatility there in the way that you approach the game, and I'm sure it'll be very interesting to see how players are.
Yeah.
I am going to throw something out here,
Oh, here we go.
and I just want to get your base feelings on it. An active draft system for specialists, and by that I don't mean the draft where each team can have the same specialist. I mean that we do a snake draft in terms of first team gets 1 pick, second team gets 2 pick, then back and forth. And
Like
use
League of
10
Legends style.
exactly like League of Legends style. Now, don't get me wrong, there are obviously massive negatives to this in the terms of the fact we don't have as many things as League of Legends and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But I just found it an interesting concept at the very least.
I'm just having a look at how many. Right, so there's only 10. So there you go. So you have to use every single one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I know fuck all about League of Legends, but like I think the prime thing there is there's a lot to choose from, and
Yeah.
so there's gonna be I don't know if it's the case in League of Legends where someone has this character, this other team's gonna be at a disadvantage because this character's so good.
A lot of time you can counterpick. That's the benefit of that. I think that's something in CoD you probably couldn't do. But like whenever you pick somebody, you can counterpick on the other side.
So like,
I mean, if there was
somebody-
more specialists, I think that would be it might be a cool thing to do.
But then you
Yeah.
have to use all of them, and then somebody's going to get stuck with one that doesn't really dwell.
Yeah.
Top of my head, I'm trying to think of the most rubbish one. I think.
If the specialists were built like around to counter each other, like for example, if there was like an ability that could counter the heatwave character, like stuff like that, like maybe then that would become viable. But it's not really. The specialists aren't really built that way. Do you know what I mean? There's no like they don't counter each other. They all just have their own different individual abilities that are completely unique to the situations. So
Yeah.
All right, well let's move on. Is there anything else, score streak wise or anything you guys have kind of been focusing on in the last few days of launch going forward?
Scorestreaks are powerful by the looks of things. The attack chopper is insane.
Mine isn't. The time I used it.
Mine, honestly, I can go into a game and just get murdered by them. I think that maybe needs to be put up in terms of the. Oh no! I tell you what's mad. The one that they dropped the other blokes in. What's it called?
Oh, those two geezers. Jesus.
Those two geezers. No, are we going to give it a name or
what are they called?
Is it? Are we talking about the two snipers on the chopper?
No. Strike team.
Strike team.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that yet. What's that about?
So it's like the
two
troopers.
Big fat arseholes that don't miss. And they have 4,000 health.
Yeah,
literally 4,000 health.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You've got to do a lot to get them. But it's literally like having two more powerful teammates on your team than anybody else. If they didn't take as many bullets, I'd be all right with it. But it's like
how high is it?
It's pretty high. I think it's like second or third highest.
Second top one, I think. Yeah.
I mean, again, does that mean anything? Like we had raps in the game before, and they were absolutely ridiculous.
No, it's not that much difference from attack chopper's 1,200 score streak, and then the strike team is 1,350. So it's like an extra.
Why have I not been putting out?
Right. And you can command them where to go as well. You can literally look at the map, like look at the floor, and press square, and they run over to that area, and they're like,
have your boy secure in the rotation.
You literally just pure send it into a hard point. And they just run in and they just can't die.
If someone uses that in a competitive game, the game's over straight up. After what I experienced earlier in pubs, it was. I didn't want to rage quit because I like my win-loss record, but I was getting absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah,
fair enough.
If they didn't take as many bullets, it'd be okay. Because I can admit, okay, if they don't miss, that's fine. But like, I mean, you're literally putting bullets and bullets and bullets in. I wouldn't be surprised if they have like 1,000 health at this point, because I've nailed a few of them and think, why is that? Like, who's this bloke I'm running into? And then you realize it's one of the big fellas who is apparently just absolutely nails. And yeah, that's too much. The gunship's good, but that's the top one. The sniper's nest is good, but you can shoot them out of it. So
the sound. Have you heard?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's the most. It's not the best one, but I'd choose it because it's the most satisfying for sure.
Yeah, 100%. But you can shoot them out. But as I said, yeah, it's pretty good, but it's not like it's not as strong as the normal chopper, I would say. But yeah, it's good still.
Right, what we'll do quickly, Marky, if you want to quickly bounce.
Come
back in a minute. I'll speak to Shane for a minute. Shane, is there anything else you noticed about the game? Anything that's kind of come up in the discussions from players and so on and so forth that you guys are looking at here? I know full functionality of everything isn't in the game quite yet. I know things like league play and the GB system, that's not in the game. Is there anything else players have been talking about?
I'm intrigued to see how control plays out. I mean, I love playing it from a public standpoint, but obviously you just spawn trapping noobs over and over again. I'm sure once you're on the wrong end of that of a pro team, that could change your opinion of it. But
any players scrimmed it?
No one scrimmed anything because Activision decided not to give us a rule set. So I don't know how it's going to pan. Yeah, I think it's going to come in like the next couple of weeks or something, which is unfortunate because everyone, at least I think the players should be told or have a rough idea of what they're going to be playing. So
do we not have
we still you have a base idea, I think. Yeah. I guess a lot of people can't guarantee the rule set. But I mean, the first event is until I was just looking here. It's still a decent way away.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a month and a half away, so it's not too bad of a problem. I would like to see it in the next week, admittedly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every team is playing S&D at the moment anyway, which is by far the most important game mode because the hardpoint meta or respawn meta generally changes several times before the first event. S&D doesn't really, so it's good to see everyone's grinding the S&D, especially the Europeans, because they've never really done that at the start, and I'm sure that will show come the first event.
Yeah. But Europeans end up being very good at S&D anyway.
Yeah, I know it must be just a natural thing that the Europeans have.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about, because obviously you've been working with your team. First of all, how is it working with your squad now? And now you're kind of more of a recognized coach, because before it wasn't like an official superficial thing through the org. How has it been for you, just kind of working with this team, and how involved are you?
I mean, towards World War II, I gave what opinions I can. Because it was so late into the game, there wasn't that much they needed to work on. I mean, the S&D was really good, so because they're all 1,000 times better than me at S&D, anything I could have told them would have been negative. There's a few hot like respawn things that I could have helped them on, but going into this game, there's not much I can do apart from compliment them and tell them how much they've been bullshitted, because all I can do, all they're doing is playing S&D, and obviously I can't be in there for that. But it's a strange transition going from a player to a coach. For sure, it's 100,000% more nerve-wracking watching than it is playing. There's times I think, I can't remember what event it was, but there was playing Optic, and I had rounds where I was jumping out of my chair, and I had rounds where I was literally shitting my pants in my chair as well. But like I said, going from playing to coaching is a strange one. But when I fucking fell off, I made a good decision to go coaching. Well, I fell off years ago, but
hang on.
I held on, and kept going.
All right, because that's kind of the next topic here, and I was tempted to go a different way, but let's talk about this now. Obviously, you two are coaches now. Coaches back in the Mr. X era was basically X, and I think maybe I want to say Hilton, and Dinge, and that was basically it.
Swizz, King Swizz,
the most influential.
And then it stepped off because they were banned for a little while. Now we're seeing teams more and more pick up that extra man. I was going to say fifth man, but it's now sixth man. But there also seems to be an aspect of you're also kind of like a manager. You sort out issues for the players, so they have to deal with it. It goes to events. So I'm just kind of curious how you see the role as its kind of evolution has come in now, and the fact you are both doing that sort of thing. Like I said, there's no on-stage role for you, other than maybe between maps you can say, regain. Marky, you've just come back, so I'll put this to you. How have you kind of been using your coach role, and what's like a kind of a week-long basis for you?
It's more analytical stuff than like it used to be. Like you said, coaches when they were on stage, they were able to control aspects of the in-game stuff, whereas now it's more preparation for the games, sort of like the likes of the veto process, going over other teams' sort of strategy, just doing all the little things and just being that sort of guy that gets all the team together and gets them to go through the likes of the strategies the other teams are going to be using and stuff. It's more so just preparation for the games, and obviously, like you said, just a bit of management stuff as well. Sort of just making sure the players are just the most comfortable they can be, just doing whatever we can outside of the game, so that when they go into that game, when the map loads in, that they're in the most comfortable position they can be in. That's basically our role.
Okay. There's something interesting you said there, because it's one of my personal favorite things that's come into CoD recently, or at least recently in the landscape of CoD, I should say. Vetoes. We saw last year some teams making absolutely terrible veto choices, even though they've had months to prepare. Even though they know what they should be taking, some teams still seem to be picking either their strongest maps or their weakest maps and banning them outright, rather than counter-picking or thinking what would be a good map set going in. Are you two approaching that in that kind of manner? Do you try to deepen your map pool? Do you play specifically for the other teams? Shane, how did you find that at the back end of last year?
For me, it was just like finding out their records and stuff like that, and forwarding them to the team. And I don't think you can tell them, I think you should play this, I think you should play that, but they could go into it happens a lot with teams, they could go into the event online, this is their best map, they'll get to that event, and they could lose that map terribly to a team they should be beating. So throughout the tournament, that would end up making them lose confidence for that map, blah, blah, blah. But for the whole veto thing, it's like I said, it's up to the players and how they're feeling in that moment. I can just give them the information on how good they are at this map and how good you are at this map, and then it's up to them to pick it from there.
Okay, yeah, because I think for yesterday, I was just irritated last year. The times I saw ego picks come in from teams, and it pissed me off no end, because I'm like, if you're going to ego pick a map, like, you have to have just massive balls and really win it.
Yeah.
But so many times it backfired, because like, oh, we're better than this team everywhere. It's like, but you're not. You're like, that is their best map. You know it's not a great map for you. The practice may cost you this series. Like, regardless of the fact you get the practice in to be better at that map, it may cost you this series. And we did see it last year. It's one team specifically, I remember doing it a few times last year. Marky, what about you?
I mean, I think it's quite a hard thing to balance. Like, if your team's not got a strong map pool in general, you're at an automatic disadvantage and that's the case with vetoes in general. Like you.
But you got to play around that, right? Like that's the entire point of it.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. It's you got to think about, or do we want to play our best map, but is it their best map as well? Do we want to try and play a map that we're not very good at, but they might not be very good at either? But it's like it's weighing up all the pros and cons of like the situation as a whole and deciding what's the best for your team. Some teams make bad decisions on that, I mean, last year I can't remember a series in particular, but against teams like, for example, Envy, we'd go in and we knew that the vetoes were going to be in our favor because we knew that their best maps were quite clearly our best maps. So we knew we were going to be playing all of our best maps. Whereas against like a team like Rise, for example, we knew they were just going to ban out our best maps. We were going to get whacked on maps that they were just way better than us. It was just sort of a weird situation where it was a lot of matchup dependent as well. Like you could go in against certain teams, even though like Envy fared fairly well against the majority of teams, but then against us we beat them every time because it just matched up well for us. It's finding that balance is the key thing, and I think it's obviously also important for the players as well to all be on the same level, because that's an issue as well. A lot of players having arguments about vetoes. Like one player thinks we should be playing this, another player thinks we should be playing that, and it ends up just causing issues in the team as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm also hoping, and I'm sure that everybody in CoD is, for a deep map pool. That will make a big deal. I know last year some of the people watching, some of the fans weren't happy with the London Docks series and that sort of stuff, that just the same map over and over again. But no, I'm hoping for deep map pool. I think it is one of my favorite parts of CoD, and I know that's kind of like a little bit of a nerdy thing to say, but for me it's so tactical. It's so much behind the scenes that goes into every map. Do we practice more for this map? What are we doing? How do we get better? Is this a good idea for us to play on this, and this? And you are right, because it's so matchup dependent and how you're playing at the time and how you have been playing. It's like really deep, and we do see teams mess it up. But at the same time, we do see a record number of map 5s because it does allow a lot more balancing in the game. It takes out the randomness of it all, which was the biggest argument to having it in previous years. So I just like the fact that it's becoming more and more of a main storyline going forward. Tunn, I hear you breathing.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because me and Mark were speaking about it the other day, like, because don't want to reveal too much, but like obviously we sort of half heard like how many maps are going to be on Hardpoint and that sort of thing. And I was sort of speaking to you, Mark, about it, like saying, well, why isn't there like a lot of maps in? But you said it's something to do with the vetoes, that it would sort of cancel out the idea of the veto process if there was too many.
Yeah, I mean, if like the way the vetoes work is you veto like one hard point each. So like if there was, for example, 7 hard points, you're gonna. It's not really possible to.
I suppose the fixed errors you can.
I disagree. I think that's better.
I mean, I agree that it's better, but I mean the veto process as a whole would have to change. It would be more instead of vetoes, it would be like it would be picks instead, because you can't sit there and like ban through like 15 maps each. Like,
I mean, which I think is fine.
I don't mind a heavier ban. Like if it was 7, I wouldn't mind like a double ban. Like you ban one, they ban one, you ban one, they ban one, then you pick, then they pick. Like I think that's fine. If anything, that's even better, because not only do you have to have a deeper map pool, because of just the law of averages, it means the game should be even closer. Like you're literally coming onto a map that is so much in the middle for the pair of you that if they're the better team, they're going to win pretty much most of the time because of the veto system. Like, whereas if you're the worst team, you either have to go away and say, like, we need to get better maps, or we need to figure out, what the hell we're doing wrong. Like, there's no, it's, we just got a bit unlucky with it here. It's very much, you're both either going to get rid of your best and worst maps. So these are the maps we're okay on. No. And if both teams are okay at something, it's fair.
I think as long as the maps are all completely competitive, viable, then like what you said, Brice, I think that's the best way to go about it, because it will increase the skill gap. Because towards the end of the game, halfway through the game, there's teams that just think, fuck it, we're going to veto this map every tournament. We don't need to practice it.
Yeah.
So with more maps, the better team will win majority of the time, and obviously everyone likes to see a good underdog story, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, what's more competitive is the best way to go forward.
Yeah, competitive integrity should remain the main thing for everybody, I would say. Yeah.
And I'm sure they would do that anyway.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see Slum's Hardpoint, man. I can't bloody wait.
All right, quick question. This one. Has there been any big kind of differences you've noticed going 5v5?
Comms. I think comms are the main difference. Like
Chaos?
It's gonna be chaos, yeah.
Yeah, I think Matt. I've not watched my team play Respawn yet, but just in S&D, it's. I feel like it's quite hard to balance that sort of. You're wanting to small talk. You're wanting to give all the information that you have in front of you, but also you don't want to speak over your teammates. And like when it's a chaotic situation, like if it was almost like this game mode, is at times with everyone flying about, sliding about, playing for trades and whatnot. It's quite hard to sort of. There's been a lot of times. We've only played for like a week, but there's been a lot of times where I feel like myself or someone else that I've been playing with isn't really aware of what's going on in the situation because there's just so much going on that it's really hard to keep an eye on like exactly who's died, exactly the positions of all your teammates, where your teammates have died, because the comms are so crazy, the map is so crazy. It's just especially on some of these smaller maps, it's just a bit more chaotic, I'd say, and I don't know if that's the best thing, but I think it's just different, really.
Well, we've always said comms is a main thing that separates some pros from some amateur players.
Yeah,
this year is going to really stretch that, I think.
But too much communication, not too much communication, like too much chaotic communication, which it does get like that in CoD, sometimes, especially in a hard point, everyone starts screaming their heads off. A lot of players don't like that. It affects them negatively, but then obviously there are some teams where you hear them do a listening, they're all fucking screaming their heads off and it all hypes them up. But that doesn't affect everyone the same. So I think there needs to be emphasis on certain call-outs which are important, because if everyone's calling out everything at the same level, there's going to be shit that gets missed, important stuff that gets missed, and there's always going to be a quieter person on every team, and that's going to be a lot more like okay for him to be quieter than he had to be on last games, which I'm sure that person's going to love.
I think for me, also, this is something you guys will work on as coaches, right? Like, but tempers could flare. Like in that sort of high environment, if you're hearing a lot of noise, it's irritating, and if it's irritating in that high pressure scenario, that can turn to anger, and it could cause some friction between teams. And again, this is a hark back to the coaches thing here. You guys are the extra man where players can come and talk to you rather than screaming at their teammates, and you can help sort stuff out because you're not emotionally invested in how you played the game, right? Like you didn't go 4-15 or 15-4. You were watching from the outside, saying, "Like, just calm down, we'll chill out, we'll figure it out, we'll work out what the problem was, we'll watch the VOD," rather than be like emotionally engaged in that.
Yeah. I feel like that's the main issue between players sometimes, that like when they're discussing amongst each other,
there's no one to tell them who's right and who's wrong straight up.
And like when players are disagreeing, they almost feel like they're being personally attacked with each other. I know that like I sometimes had issues with that when I competed as well. Like when a player would come at you for something, they would obviously try to help you, but like sometimes it feels like just when they step over that level of like where it almost feels like there's some disrespect there. It's hard to like for some players in general to not snap back, and then that's how all the arguments start unfolding. And like you said, I could see that happening a lot more with just the general frustration with everything going on. People missing call. It's like, oh, you didn't call that out. Like, nah, you just didn't hear it because there's just five.
That happens every fucking map.
Yeah. But again, that's your two's job now. Like you got to deal with that. You've got to deal with the diva-ship that can come from players. The players who don't want to admit their mistakes, and I've seen it happen so often as well. Like a player will look outwards first before looking inwards. And that's how you can tell. That's also one of the things you can literally see it. Like, I think you guys have probably seen it, but younger players, the players who are just coming in and maybe they're on the younger side of the team, they seem to flare very quickly. They seem to blame others very quickly before they look at themselves. The more seasoned players are a lot more measured about the way they approach the game, the way they think about it. They're like, a lot of times they'll say, yeah, I could have done better. And you'll hear them admit, like, you just watch some of the interviews where players say, yeah, I didn't do well here. Their teammates did this, this, and this. Like, that doesn't come from the newest players a lot of the time. A lot of the time, that's the seasoned players.
It's a maturity thing. Like,
yeah.
Straight up.
I think Mark's got a harder task to make sure the boys are doing the right thing and calling out who's doing the wrong thing than Shane might. I think the boys on Reciprocity will take that on board a little bit easier than some of the big personalities on Splice. Mark?
Nah, of course not, mate. Splice are leading under the MarkyB rule. They'll be cut like you wouldn't even believe. They'll be gone. They wouldn't even make it to Vegas.
I'll be subbing in.
Commander
part of the master plan.
Yeah, I'm living for that day. One of the players is sick, and that's my fucking moment.
You come in.
Well, you guys are probably going to be the subs, right? Like, because you get a sub this year.
I'm sure
It makes sense for you to be the
is
sub.
Swan not everybody's sub?
Everyone's got Swan as a sub, yeah.
Probably
all right,
yeah.
Go on. No. Let's move
our
on.
sub will probably be one of the Splice Academy players.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Let's move on then, because this is already getting into quite a long episode, and we've got questions from the chat coming in. So let's hit these. Good storylines going into Vegas. Someone's mentioned Rec versus Alex, for instance.
100 views for the Optic, off the top of my head, easy one.
Yeah.
Cap going against LG, so a United LG. Those are my three.
Shawnee versus Madcat's team, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
MarkyB versus Shane.
Yeah.
MarkyB versus Shane. Yeah, well, that bad blood.
Hand-to-hand combat, or
Nah, down and drinks competition.
yeah.
All right,
I'm
someone
more
just forward that clip to both their
I'm
employers.
more of endurance than anything else.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Is there anything you're looking out for as we go to Vegas?
Just the main things, like just all the main storylines, I guess. Our team being the most hated team in CoD history. Hopefully, that's the sort of that's our path.
When you've got accuracy, you're gonna get a bit of hate, man. But he was some player last year, so I think it's worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, our group chat is literally called villains. That's our group text. It's not even Splice. It's literally villains.
Yeah, but you're liked, Marky. Like, you're well liked, I feel. So
I mean,
a bit of a balance.
I'm like Marmite. I don't know.
You've got to do all the interviews, all of them. Players haven't had a talk to Jess anymore.
Jared ain't doing them.
Nah, Jared loves it.
Oh yeah, it's good. But Jared's not a villain. But Jared's the anti. Everyone loves Jared. He doesn't say anything, but everyone loves him.
Nah, but Jared's
I know, it doesn't make sense, does it?
George's on the sly a villain though. He's like a villain that everyone likes.
Yeah, he said some fucking dark things to me.
Yeah,
man.
he's on this. If you know him, he's like
he's a shady character.
He's a real twisted bloke deep down.
Oh, I love Jared.
Yeah,
I love Jared. I'm never going to be convinced not to love him.
Yeah. Nice guy.
All right, villain splice. I like it. All right, let's move on. Crowdfunding in CoD. Do you think we'll ever see it?
You would have thought we would have seen it years ago. I'd love to, unless Tunn knows something we don't about the business behind it.
I don't know, mate.
But for me, the fact it hasn't been in is just
why Tunn?
mind blowing. Because the way his reaction, his little
CWL employee these days. No.
I mean, having Vondi or tight, I heard.
I mean, there has to be a reason as to why they haven't done it before. I mean, they have one of their graphics blokes does something, creates a skin, people buy it, they make money, players make money.
You would think
so much positives behind that, so I'd love to know why they haven't done it.
It'll be a higher up league, wouldn't it? Like it'll be something like we can't even contemplate. Like,
there'd be something
I don't
deeper
understand.
about it.
I've heard that excuse for years. Oh, it's some legal thing.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Marky. Of course, we don't understand. None of us are lawyers, and none of us work in that
But
upper corporate world.
Yeah, how come every other esport do it though? Like that's what I don't understand as well. But it doesn't really make sense not for them not to do it at the same time. So it probably is that, but it just doesn't make sense realistically. Like
it'll be like. It's not an easy conversation. Like, it sounds easy, but I guarantee once you go into that upper kind of corporate world and the lawyers and all the legalities with it, it's either a conversation that they're not too worried about because they're paying for it anyway, or it's just something like it gets so far and it just keeps going around in circles. And because the game changes every year, it's probably like, oh, you know, we talked about it for 12 months with Sledgehammer. Now we've got to go talk to Infinity Ward about 12 months. We're back to square one. Like it could very easily be something silly like that. Or it's just not a high opinion. It's just not a high priority for them. It's just not something they're too worried about. Whereas we would like it, you know. Again, we're a subsection. I don't know.
It would be great, obviously, but you can just only imagine that that's the reason. Like as you said, there's no other excuse as to why it's not in.
Everyone makes money, so it has to be a legal reason. And if it isn't, then they have something seriously wrong with them.
Right. We're going to crowdfund. I'm going to do a voiceover pack for the game, and we'll get that crowdfunded.
Oh,
Great.
God.
Yeah,
How to
be
make it
100
bigger.
I'll do it in two different ways.
$100
I'll do the casting voice, and then I'll do the Essex voice, which only comes out when I'm tired and drinking at events, which nobody really sees unless you know me at events.
I've seen that.
I've seen it.
plenty of times.
I've witnessed it in Essex and Colchester itself, man.
It's bad, isn't it, as well?
Scary.
All right, let's move on because this next question is quite good. What are Mark and Shane's favourite part of their career? This is even more poignant now that you two are kind of looking back along a lengthy playing career.
On Modern Warfare 3, going into Black Ops 2, I think I must have beat Mark's team a good 10 times without losing.
Love the fact you're using this opportunity to talk shit.
Easily. Hard to say. It'll be like something to do on Black Ops 2 when we were fucking battering everyone. But then apart from that, it's been pretty, fucking downhill.
I mean, the old Cloud days.
Oh yeah, we were called Cloud. I forgot about that.
I mean, honestly, I couldn't really say. I'd probably say my funnest part. Like, I wouldn't really say it was the best achievement-wise in that, but just the best memories really were that Infused team with like Trey, Dave, and Petey. I forgot Petey was on the team. Petey and Dinge as well. Dinge is an integral part of that as well. Just like, it was just such good times. Just like we all at one point were just really good friends, and just that was probably like the closest I was with individuals of a team. And then obviously like the TCM times were okay. I'd say that obviously done a lot of good stuff there as well, but yeah, just the Black Ops 3 end of AW times, I guess.
I mean, I can't believe you haven't said Team and Chris Tunn was your favourite.
Team and Chris Tunn as well at a Reflex event where he ran.
Was it bollocks?
No, honestly.
It was only good because you was in Amsterdam. Let's be real.
Honestly,
some of those Reflex events.
And let's get into these stories.
I'm going to move it on, but not in the greatest direction. Because I'm going to say, Shane, I'm surprised one of yours isn't when you first picked up for Prophecy and winning I Series.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was good. And I beat TTM in that as well.
Yeah.
I've got to speak about something, by the way. Tony's just emailed me about speaking at his wedding about the CTF what you done in Arcade and CTF.
Oh my god, scenes.
It was absolutely mental, mate. He'll be talking about this till the day he dies, mate. That's Tony's most infamous moment in his esports career. Him running down mid-map at Arcade and CTF.
That was my peak. That was my peak.
104 overall.
No, this is a different event. Arcade and
A different
CTF.
event. Jesus Christ.
Arcade and CTF. I will never forget it. I remember the gun.
It was against absolute shitters as well. Last map it was against absolute burgers. Last map on overtime.
Oh man, we got battered the whole series, and then Chrissy Tunn just pulls it out the bag in map 5. Crazy scenes.
Random map with a silenced MP7 and popped a 3-piece for the win.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Wow. You're definitely not living on that past memories, Tan, are you? Jesus.
That's what got me where I am now, boys.
Remember in Arcade, no one does that more than Phil though. Jesus Christ, man. Old Momo Wit. He loves bringing up his playing days, doesn't he? I'm sure everyone's noticed it.
His accolades, lovely accolades.
His accolades of getting three class players around him.
I don't know if you've ever seen, Phil. I know Momo will probably be forward this at some point. I don't know if you've ever seen his accolade list. There are wins on there that are literally, one's an exhibition match he put on there.
Yeah,
and another's a match that he got carried by Monksy. The 3-team invitational for the qualifications for G4E. And I just, every time he brings it up, I'm like, it looks impressive because it's a first at a legitimate event, but he just padded that so badly.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of that exhibition match, by the way, Shane, I'm pretty sure Shane played in that. Shane, do you remember when we went to Wembley and we played in a hotel room? Before Ghosts. It was a game or something like that, yeah?
And it was like, lied to us.
Yeah. It was like me, you, Swan, I think someone from my team, and we're playing against the whole of Momo's team.
Aware, yeah.
The whole of their team,
playing against Momo. See, I don't remember. I was there. Playing against him.
And it was like a random best of 3 we played or something like that on Ghost before it came out, and they won it. They won like 2-1 or something. I think we were both playing like a celebrity or something, and that's their expedition match.
Yeah,
like
we were lied
on
to.
the achievement list.
We got told we were playing at Wembley, and then we're playing in a tiny hotel room in a room near Wembley.
Also, I will just point out that's also the time we decided to troll the greater Twitter sphere, who didn't know what we were doing, that we were actually going parachuting.
Oh yeah, we said we were jumping into Wembley.
Yeah, because we just started tweeting out pictures of parachute shops and stuff while we were walking around London, pretending that that's the reason we were in London, not the exhibition game. We were just there was 8 players in London just to go parachuting is what we were claiming. Anyway, that's a walk down memory lane. Let's move on. Mark, what is your sleeping schedule looking like now? You're working with a NA team.
I don't have a sleeping schedule. So, I mean, the last week I've been sleeping like 3 hours a night, coming on in the morning, playing more COD. I can't mention this in last week's Spitfire that I was on, that when I was sort of talking to all the players during the off-season, trying to sign like some accuracy, and obviously Looney and stuff. Looney was in LA, had accuracy in Tokyo, like players in all different time zones. So I was staying up into ridiculous times in the morning. And that's something I'm really trying in the last week just to get myself into an actual routine, because it's been all over the place, to be honest with you. Like last night I went to sleep at 9 p.m, woke up at 5 a.m. I've been up since then.
Wow.
And then, for example, like a couple of days ago, I was going to sleep at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Like, there's just been no consistency. There's just been no consistency with me.
Work-life balance sounds great.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, I think the idea now with me, obviously, going to be watching them scrim and stuff like that. I'm 5 hours behind. Well, for the East Coast anyway. Typically scrims will be starting at 11 p.m. my time, probably finishing about 3-4 a.m. So I'm probably going to have like a going to sleep around 5 a.m., 6 a.m. schedule, but it's just quite late or early. Depending
That's pretty good. That's pretty good for gamers, to be honest. The 4 a.m. is like the dream schedule.
Yeah, literally.
That's bad. Probably get some office hours in there somewhere.
Real life, we're not ready for real life, that's for sure.
What do you mean I have to be here at 9 a.m. for work? What is this?
That's fucking bedtime.
This next one is, I don't think you two can say an awful lot on this one because you're coaches of players, but you can weigh in. Would you argue COD players are overpaid?
I don't know.
I'll start this one off.
Yeah,
I know.
Yes.
I know.
Oh my God, are they? Jesus Christ.
I know. I actually believe that right now there is a little bit of a bubble going on. Some players have the wages have shot up beyond anything that the fans know, and the return of investment. It'll be interesting to see if CWL goes into a franchise, because I think that'll be its saving grace. Because right now, I don't think what a lot of the players are asking from orgs is acceptable.
It's not sustainable either.
And especially in America, like what some of these American players are getting is absolutely comedy. For what they bring to the org, like, all right, fair enough, they're a great COD player, but you don't stream, you don't do any of this, and you're expecting this many. I won't say the numbers these people are getting, but it's a fuck ton of money.
It's insane. Some of them are getting literally more. Some of them are getting paid more than doctors. It's mental. So
that's the worst. That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Right.
That's the worst thing to bring. Like,
absolute.
And what are you gonna as a benchmark? As a benchmark, that's your benchmark.
No, like we're talking like consultants. Like I used to work in the NHS.
You used to work in NHS for us. It was something like that. Could be anything. Well, $500,000, is that what it is? I don't know.
So a consultant's paid about $100,000 a year. I know for a fact that some COD pros get paid more than that.
Oh yeah.
That's mental.
That number is increasing. That is definitely
mental.
The worst thing that happened that I've seen is the fact that with a 5th player coming on board, and that's an extra player you've got to get, it's 20% over your revenue from last year. The wages didn't go down. Players asked for more this year, and they had to bring on an extra player.
I mean, another thing with that is
I'd do the same if I was a player.
Activision didn't really do very good with announcing that, did they? It created all this big hype around this 5v5 thing, not taking into consideration that orgs have to probably get new sponsors, they have to sign an extra person for this much money, and it come down to all this big thing for him to say, oh yeah, by the way, it's 5v5 on the stream.
Shane's not a big fan of that announcement by the sound of it.
No, I was pissed off with it. It caused a lot of stress.
I think for me, I would love to see every player paid as much as they want to be paid. Like, don't get me wrong, right? I have no issues with players making money at all. Love players. I've always had every player's back, and I'm sure you two can test. I've spoke to players about it over the years to try and get as much money as they can while they're playing, and just do everything. I don't really mind. Honestly, if a player told me next day he signed a contract for $1 million, I'd be like, good on you.
Oh yeah.
The issue I have is ROI, and don't get me wrong, wages should have gone up with the fact that the CW covers a lot of stuff, whereas the past years you used to pay for flights and all that sort of stuff. So it should have gone up. It should 100% be going to the players. I'm more worried of the fact that there's going to be less orgs to pick up those players.
And there is. There's all orgs dipping out. They can't afford these teams anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said,
struggle with orgs, aren't they? So
I love the fact that the players get paid as much money as they do, but at the end of the day, it is bullying a lot of these other orgs out, which realistically isn't the worst thing, because these orgs wouldn't have got these franchising spots that are coming in the next year anyway, and that's what everyone's preparing for, of course.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think franchising will say. I think franchising will rebound as players come towards a more middle ground. But also, like the wage inflation has had effects that people have moaned about that they don't realize why they're moaning about them. Things like streaming and content died off because why would you bother when you're already getting paid a lot of money? Like the hunger isn't there for the cash.
But I think that's down to the orgs to then say to them, like, we are paying you this month. We are paying you this month.
But that's not how players work.
No, it's not how they work. But
they'll either want to do it or they don't want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, you can expect the absolute minimum effort out of them.
Yeah, but I think organizations are within their right if they're paying people a wage to do a job. If they turn around and say, right, okay, you should be streaming, I want a minimum of 20 hours a week.
Yeah, but I don't think that'll work. You're talking about the pro players will push back instantly. Like that's for me, that's not a realistic thing. I think it's more of an added benefit you would get from players.
Yeah, it's not asking much in the grand scheme of things, though, is it?
Yeah, but then again, I don't know. For me, I think the wages are probably the inflation anyway. Is probably a bit much for the infrastructure built up around CoD at the moment to sustain long term. But I'm expecting franchising anyway, so that'll rebalance it. That'll have all the teams come back into line. At least on a somewhat level. Either that or it will do the opposite, just inflate everyone even more, which will be hilarious to see because then it's under a franchise and we'll not care because it's fine for it to be under a franchise. I'd love to see a salary cap. That would be interesting. But let's move on from that because that's like a really long, deep conversation about the way that it could impact on the scene long term. And I feel like we know stuff that the fans don't know and that we're not privileged enough to divulge in this conversation. So let's move on. For Mark and Shane, who is the most underrated player on their respective teams? Mark?
I'd say Temp, honestly. I guess everyone else in my team, I know, Temp. I'd say, like, obviously everyone's sort of doubting his abilities, but I think going into last year, he was touted as being one of the potential best players in the game, like going into it with that Envy squad. Like everyone was really hyped for that squad at the start of the year. There was a lot of people that were saying that was the best team. Obviously it didn't turn out that way, but I think he's got a lot of individual talent. You always see him playing like some money and stuff like that going off. He's got the right people around him there, I believe, to succeed to win. So I think that I'm gonna say Temp.
I think your team is full of underrated players, to be honest with you. I think
I'd agree.
Accuracy, Looney, and Temple in Aqua.
I've noticed not a lot of people talking about Jerd because of the stock drop you guys had last year.
Yeah, I think that Jerd's only been in America for like a week now, but I've already heard multiple American players saying Jerd's unreal. Like everyone that's played with him and like tournaments and stuff, Jerd's getting some next level gas.
Not shocked.
That's
not shocked by anyone of us.
Yeah, I know.
Like, everyone's known it for years.
I've always felt like fans have underrated Jerd. Like, don't get me wrong, there are Jerd fans, and there's a lot of Jerd fans, but like every so often you just see somebody go, "Oh, he's not that good," and I'm like, no. Like, if he'd been in America this whole time, you'd be putting him way up in the rankings.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, being surrounded by like, I'm not saying like the players he's had in the past have been bad because obviously they haven't, but I'm saying just having that like just
exposure.
just that exposure to like the best players in the world, which obviously are in America, being constantly in these streams where people are playing money eights and stuff, and just getting his name more out there, and having just a lot more players like see him, like when they die, they're spectating him, they're seeing how his decisions play out in game and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of these players are just playing against him, or maybe seeing him in the stream here and there. And I think a lot more players have a lot more respect for someone when they can see how they perform on a regular daily basis. So I think that he's going to be getting a lot more hype.
All right. Shane, how about your rec pack?
Most underrated player?
Yep.
Shawnee, I think, for sure. He's not like the flashiest player in the world, and obviously from a fan's perspective, it's like the striker in football. It's the flashiest. The flashiest gets the most credit, but I'd say Shawnee's more of the string puller in the team. He's totally key to the team, especially since he switched roles. I mean, he started off as a sub with the first Unilad team, but when he switched to the flex role, he really come into his own as like a sort of like great player. Mm-hmm. So, but I still don't think he gets the credit he deserves, so it'd have to be him for sure.
Yeah, Sean's unreal. Okay. Absolutely unreal.
All right, awesome. Fantastic answers that, actually. Another one from Mark, actually. People ask you about Splice's comms. Apparently you guys have a number of in-game leaders. Do you think it's going to be an issue?
I don't think so. I think that... I don't really think... I'm just reading the comment now. I don't really think Temps... it doesn't really take that in-game leader role. I'd say, obviously, Accuracy and Looney are known for that, but I'd say more so Looney is like the sort of IGL. Obviously, there's always like sort of different like levels of, for example, I'll use my old Infused team, right? You obviously had me as the leader, but you'd have players like Trey who also came in S&D rounds and would call the shots. I think that's just the case in most teams. Like, there's always going to be players that pitch in different situations. Like, there's not just the way it operates isn't usually just one guy that constantly makes every single call. Maybe in some teams, but the vast majority of teams have one leader, and then like there's multiple players who influence.
You need it on different situations, multiple leaders essentially.
Yeah. So I think that I don't really think it's going to be an issue, to be honest with you.
Okay, awesome, fair enough. Yeah. All right, we'll move on then. Good answer though. Good answer. Opinions on the league being one stage instead of two?
I think it's all right. I think that's fine.
It's okay.
Sort of, because
I don't mind it.
Yeah, because I think towards the end of stage 2 last year, as a spectator, it got a little bit stale for me towards the end, and I think that a lot of people sort of...
It felt up like an anticlimactic chance.
Yeah, completely.
It got a little bit stale. I really liked stage 1 last year. I was watching every night, but then when it got towards the end of stage 2 and everything was sorted and we knew who was qualifying for playoffs, it was like, well... Why am I
We're looking at champs at that point, right? Where it's like all eyes on champs.
I think it's absolutely the right decision to go with one stage.
Yeah, completely.
Long stage as well. Long stage.
Super long
12
stage.
weeks.
It's going to be
Are EU AMs at an advantage now? Most teams are moving to the yes, or a disadvantage as there's no high teams to play against?
All right, I've got.
I don't know why they'd be at an advantage. I mean, there's none of this whole best team in Europe thing anymore. That's gone. It's you want to be the best team in the world. The best team in Europe's irrelevant. We don't really have European events anymore. Everything's international. So I'd like to say they're at a disadvantage, simply because the best teams they could practice from their region, they aren't going to be here.
Yeah. The issue being is that a lot of those teams wouldn't get to play against those pro teams. Like, I think Rated said that in one of the Spitfires actually coming out. He said
playing them anyway.
Yeah. He goes, I don't know why Zams are messaging me on Twitter saying, "Oh, we're not going to get the practice." He goes, "I wasn't playing against you anyway." I was like, I wasn't playing you.
On the other hand, though, like, sorry. On the other hand, there would be teams like Red. I don't think. What we said there, I agree with. They wouldn't be scrimming against AM teams, but there's like a trickle down effect. They would scrim against teams like, for example, Niall's team or something. There would be teams that they would scrim against that would learn from Red, that then would scrim against the lower level teams and then teach them. So it's like a trickle down effect where like it always does affect the more competition that is always going to improve the general landscape of the scene. So I don't think that Red scrimmed a lot of these low level teams, but they definitely would have had an overall impact of other teams even if they weren't scrimming against them.
That's a good point, actually. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I like that, Mark. That was good.
Yeah, Marky.
job,
It's
Mark.
a bit
Oh,
of
cheers,
confidence coming
boy.
here, Marky.
Cheers, boys.
Oh,
It's like
yeah,
one
Marky.
of the times you've overthought something, and it's actually been really good.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man.
You see Coach Mark, there's a brain turner that is. That's Coach Mark involved. All right, that is everything, I think. I don't think I missed anything.
Absolutely
for
our
tonight.
longest episode. Absolutely our longest.
That's why I was trying to speed up a little bit towards the end. Marky, anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, use code MarkyB for a scuff.
Yeah.
So
Also,
that's,
Brice.
that's all I have to say, really. Just
Oh,
make
it's
sure
on.
you use that code, yeah. Don't use any other code. Sweet.
Yeah. But if you have to use another code, use code Brice.
Sorry, one more thing. Sorry. If you have any double XP codes, send them my way in the DMs. Cheers.
You don't need them, man. You're like full of
Wow.
prestige.
Dude.
Man.
Shout out to all the squad.
Shane?
Yeah, shout out to Reciprocity for making this all possible for us, and shout out to you guys getting me on the show.
Thanks so much.
A big fat
Cheers,
shout out
Res.
to your barber.
Cheers, mate. I'm glad you're not playing anymore.
So am I.
Tunn?
No, nothing from me again. Same as every week. If you can follow the channel, that'd be great. We'll be here every single week. We're back next week, and I think a lot of people obviously we're trying to get pros in as well, but obviously they're all scrimming at this moment in time as well. So
I'm good with these four.
no, these fours are good, but it's just a case of people are saying,
All
why
right,
aren't you
he is the
getting
spice of life.
yeah, such and such, and why aren't you getting such and such? And they're all playing. They are all playing at this moment in time.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, thank you, of course, to our guests, MarkyB and Shane. Make sure you go and give them a like and everything on Twitter and a follow. And we're going to end this episode. Sorry. Marky, you threw me completely off there, mate. I was about to close the episode. Right, we're going to close the episode now because we do have to go for very important reasons. Thank you for watching Spitfire. We will see you soon.